Look, I'll get straight to the point. I never thought I'd see someone say so many wild things in such a calm voice. Oh, and just so I don't have to repeat it 100 times throughout the video. Remember this, Nerdrotic is 55 years old.
Material. Now they're played by a couple of lesbians, who in a moment of rare accurate representation are shown in a flashback beating the hell out of each other.
Alright then, let's begin.
Warren is back as brilliant engineer Riri. Is that right? Riri Williams.
How do you think Ironheart will shift the narrative for the coming generations?
Yikes.
Langzy says, a schemer's schemes will swallow him in the end.
Now let's talk about how you work with it. Now, the Hood's journey, it's described as involving addiction to power and the consequence that comes with it. Did exploring these items cause you to reflect on any parallels in your personal life?
Yikes.
I want to get into it.
Hold up.
I mean, we're talking about bringing yourself into there, so how much did yourself actually get into it?
I think
what have you, and the effect that had on your lives. So how do you think Ironheart will shift the narrative for the coming generations?
That's such a sentimental question.
wow.
Oh man, I hope at a base level it gives some sense of pride and excitement for the young girls and boys out there that see themselves in this brilliance, you know? And I hope that somewhere in there's a sense of encouragement to lean into who you are. Because I think at the end of the day, that's what Riri and Parker are both doing.
You know, people think, you know, when you're doing something that's that seems, you know, wild or crazy to people, right? There are a lot of naysayers. A lot of people are gonna tell you don't do that, or, you know, they're both these really ambitious, dreaming people, you know, like the ambitious dreamers that you know, again, for better or for worse, they're like that. You know, like Dom said, right? Like, you know, I think kids, especially, you know, young people should, you know, try to, in spite of where you're from and in spite of what your circumstances are, don't let your circumstances beat you down to the point where you can't dream anymore, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I love that lyric, looks like us, you know what I mean? Long nails, long hair, popping out here.
After starting on a Marvel show, like, where do I go from here?
28 seconds in. It only took Critical Drinker 15 to throw in some cheap gags to try and get a laugh, and the implication that the next step is the trash. I really hope that's not a sign of what's to come in the rest of this video.
It's directed by two black women.
Oh man, so I know the people, they want to know Ironheart is a part of a larger Marvel universe, right? How does it feel to be a part of such an interconnected and expansive storytelling platform? And how do you approach, I guess, the collaboration and I guess the balance between, all right, this is a comic, but let's, you know, implement these new elements and let's, you know, tell this story in a real way that relates to life currently.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what makes Marvel, like, truly, like, on it. Like, you see it when, you know, you're in the theater and you're getting the final product. But it's been really exciting to see them really outsource and look to those who do have the life experience, who do have that sort of real world information in their being, and give them the reins or portions of the reins, so that when you get to set, or by the time you get to set, you're walking into an environment where there are all of the right people in the right places. So this is like written by a woman who's, you know, family is from Chicago, who has an intimate understanding of the physical geography, and also the spirituality of the place. You know what I mean? Someone who, it's directed by someone who's from Chicago. It's directed by two black women. It's relying on those voices to tell the story, so that by the time I, another Black woman, step onto set to tell this story, it's already been so thoroughly cared for in the right ways. And it's really been, I don't know, it's been given the respect and the honoring that I think you hope a story like this is given, again, in those preparatory stages, so that by the time we get to set, you can dare to have fun, you know? Then you can attempt to play around with these other incredibly talented castmates that are in front of you, and now you're getting to lean on and to lean into someone else's magic, you know what I mean? And it makes for a really special experience. Filming that was a really special experience, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I know you did your thing.
Black Girl Magic! I think we have a very special message. I think you're gonna recognize who this is.
For 400 years, that word has kept us down. Took a whole lot of time just to get up that hill. Now we up in the big leagues. Getting out there in the back.
How does that make you feel? That one of the original Avengers saying that.
Iron loves Iron Man too.
I think we have a very special message. I think you're gonna recognize who this is.
Good morning, America. The new studio. God, it looks great. Miss Thorne, I couldn't be happier than to be seeing you bring Riri Williams to life. But the hood has me nervous. Is the hood green? Please tell me Mr. Ramos is not replacing me as Dr. Doom via Parker Robbins. Is there something you're not telling me? Anyway, I don't want to step on your interview. Long story short, Iron Man loves Ironheart.
That's so crazy. Dominic, how does that make you feel? That one of the original Avengers saying that.
Iron loves Iron Man too. Oh man. Yeah, you know, he has been so supportive. Like, it's really been amazing, because I do come from a family that loves the MCU. My baby brother was born just a few months before Iron Man came out, and so it's been a family affair ever since then. And so we have pictures of my baby brother being Iron Man and me being Iron Girl for Halloween. This goes so deep. It goes so deep. And so shortly after we finished filming in Chicago is when I got the first phone call from him, and he has been so sweet, like, through and through. So the support, it means so much. It really does.
Yeah, it's got to when you're bringing something like this to the screen.
Get on the bandwagon. It's here. We're here. Tony's on the bandwagon, so you know what's the problem.
Exactly.
RDJ is here.
Right.
It's nice here. Good morning.
You went full retard, man. An imbecile. Like the dumbest motherfucker that ever lived. Just farting in bathtubs and laughing your ass off.
Man.
It's high science, man. It's art form. You an artist.
Oh my God, thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Guess why I'm calling? It's June 24th, which is
It's Dad's birthday. Happy birthday.
my dad's birthday. Thanks, very considerate. Also, God, you've been doing too much press. Ironheart premieres today. It's all been leading to this. Isn't that exciting?
Oh my God, thank you. Thank you for the call.
17 years from the birth of the MCU
Oh
to
my
the
God.
premiere of Ironheart, and we're in this love together.
Man.
So psyched.
Man.
I've grown so fond of you, it's bananas.
Thank you.
Congratulations. I'll be watching it with the world, and we'll keep each other posted, yeah?
Oh my God, okay, yes, we will.
All right, let's go.
3 interviews, all of them are on YouTube, unedited, for anyone to watch. What exactly do you think you gained by lying so blatantly to your audience? There was a time when people like you got kicked off platforms for peddling lies. Honestly, maybe we need that era back.
Nerdrotic.com.
And of course, the go to generic sound whenever a racial joke drops, the smoke detector beep. So we're not even 3 minutes into your video, and we're already at 3 lies and 1 racial dog whistle. Solid start.
Friends, Disney Marvel's had a rough time of late. It's been almost a year since the release of Deadpool and Wolverine, the billion-dollar box office smash, and as predicted, it was just an anomaly and it would be right back to the regular scheduled Disney Marvel programming and it's been all downhill from there. Despite Bob Iger repeatedly saying over years when it comes to Disney Marvel that they were going to start focusing on quality over quantity, over the last 9 months, the opposite has happened as Disney Marvel has put out a steady sewage stream of slop featuring A and B list characters that even comic book fans would have a hard time caring about, that are radically altered in some form or another, be it the passing of a mantle or just an outright race and gender swap, so these characters can reflect the Los Angeles that they live in today.
We're deep into 2025, and people are still complaining about race and gender changes? Let's be honest, the characters from the original Spider-Man comics were created in the 1960s, when roughly 90% of the cast were white men, and the remaining 10% was everyone else. Turning Kurt Connors into a woman of color doesn't hurt the series or the character.
We've gotten theater kids Marvel with Agatha all along.
The gayest project Marvel has ever done. Yup!
Which admittedly is the best performing Disney Marvel thing since Deadpool and Wolverine, coming in 45th on the Nielsen Top 100.
Yeah, well, there's no accounting for taste.
But after that, Captain African American flopped, Daredevil flopped, the Thunderbolts flopped. And you know the House of Mouse and Marvel, the House of Out of Ideas, was expecting at least one win in there. A win they didn't get, and this brings us to Ironheart.
Let me get this straight. Deadpool and Wolverine made over $1 billion. Agreed. But everything that came after it, according to you, are flops? Fine, let's define that. How do you define a flop, box office? Because Brave New World and Thunderbolts both made more than double their budgets. Streaming series don't report revenue directly. So what metric are you even using? Rotten Tomatoes? Audience scores? Well, I made a chart. Right here are all the projects released after Deadpool and Wolverine, listed with their global box office, audience scores, and critic scores. Funny enough, the Spider-Man freshman year series is more critically beloved than Deadpool 3. And when sorted by fan and critic reception, Thunderbolts ranks number 2 across both categories. Let's talk cast. We've got Spider-Man, Daredevil, Falcon, and Yelena headlining shows and films. These are A-tier comic characters, not A or B-tier nobodies. The only so-called obscure character is Agatha, who, need I remind you, was one of the best reviewed parts of WandaVision. So much so, she earned her own show. And Nielsen ratings? You claim Agatha all along is 45th, which only means it's the 45th most watched show. Not that it's bad. In fact, when you actually compare the top 3 shows on that list to Agatha all along, guess what? Agatha ranks number 1 in fan approval and number 3 with critics. So again, how is that a flop? Also, really? You called Captain America Captain Afro-American? You're 55 years old, man. That's not edgy. That's embarrassing.
Maybe Kevin Feige was thinking he could sneak this in between a couple of hits. Turns out that was
not a great plan.
Not only not a great plan, the worst plan in the history of plans. If you recall, Ironheart was announced on December 10th, 2020, and filming was completed in November of 2022. And then Kevin Feige actually watched it.
It was at this moment that he knew. He f***ed up.
And after 2.5 years and almost a dozen attempts to re-edit this turd, they could delay it no longer, and they finally released a trailer in the shortest amount of time in Marvel's history and herstory between any MCU project's first trailer and its release date.
Iconic.
Which was ratioed into oblivion for good reason.
Strange. I could have sworn YouTube removed public dislikes a while ago. But hey, I'm sure no one would be dumb enough to rely on one of those browser extensions to track them, right? You know, the ones that guess numbers and are wildly inaccurate? After all, only the channel owner sees the real stats.
Iconic.
Because it turns out adapting an unpopular character from an unpopular comic that was canceled multiple times.
Unpopular comic? Canceled multiple times? The image you're using literally shows her debut issue ranked 45 on a list of 500 comics from November 2018. If that's bad, then I guess Flash, Aquaman, Immortal Hulk, Daredevil, and Darth Vader, who all appear in the same range, must be flops too, right? Also, how exactly do you cancel a character multiple times when she's only had one solo series? If a character showing up in the top 10% of comics in a given month is what you call canceled, then man, 90% of the comic industry must not exist by your logic.
Iconic. and then deciding to have the genius idea to adapt it into a television show that cost between $100 and $150 million, coincidentally greenlighting it right after the events of the Summer of Love, purely as a virtue signal, adds to the Olympus Mons of evidence that Bob Iger and Kevin Feige
don't know what the they're doing.
And despite Kevin Feige himself reportedly saying that Marvel feels more like homework than entertainment, Ironheart requires homework. But it's really not that much. According to Disney Plus, all you need to watch is Iron Man 2, Iron Man 3, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, Black Panther, Forever, and What If. But there is some good news. You don't have to watch any of that or this show.
Honestly, watching Iron Man, Doctor Strange, and Wakanda Forever is more than enough. You get to know who Tony Stark was, you understand how magic works in the MCU, and you're caught up on what happened in Wakanda. And I think watching the actual show is important for, well, understanding the show.
So, after almost a half a decade from conception to excretion, Ironheart has arrived. And unsurprisingly, we have to break this meme out one more time because our expectations were low, but holy f***. Keeping in mind, Kevin Feige in these last 5 years had every opportunity to shit-can this for the write-off, but instead, he made the worst mistake imaginable by actually releasing it. And no, it's not being undersold. After 3 episodes, this is by far the worst live-action Marvel ever made. It is indeed the Marvel's acolyte, although maybe not as funny. At best, it's 25 minutes of content stretched across an hour and a half, not counting the 18 minutes collectively of credits, which were sweet relief. The show could be best described as boring, frequently interrupted with the purest forms of cringe, and unintentionally hilarious due to the portrayal of diverse characters in the most stereotypical way possible.
I assume you'll be showing actual examples of each and every one of those moments in your video, right? Because you're making it sound like those 3 episodes were packed with that kind of content, right?
I've put this off long enough. Let's talk about Iron Shark.
Wow. I honestly never thought I'd hear a man pushing 60 say, Iron Shark, like some schoolyard kid making fun of another for liking Iron Man. It's just, wow. That's where we are now.
Now, credit where credit is due, a show that clearly knows it's one and done, doesn't waste any time, and alienates the audience right off the bat, because this is how it starts.
Here we go, okay. Just to let you know, your girl finna be bigger than Johns. Right. Bigger than Gates. Right. Bigger than Pym. Right. Bigger than Stark. Yeah. Come on.
No. Alienating the viewers by showing 2 friends having a good time laughing together? That's it? Nerdrotic felt alienated watching 2 girls do normal best friend things? Huh, interesting.
The only thing your girl finna be is as big of a failure as the Marvels. But to be fair, she could potentially be as big of a villain as Bill Gates. Now, if that wasn't bad enough, Riri's friend Natalie says this.
What do you want more than anything? A knife with Thor and his hammer.
And his hammer? Well, I guess that's on brand for Disney.
You flipped too hard, damn it!
Anyway, most of the first episode is dedicated to getting to know Riri Williams, and I gotta say up front, she is the definition of grace and humility.
I'm here because I can be the greatest inventor of my generation. I'm gonna need the equivalent of a whole vibranium mountain to be great. I'm here because I can be the greatest inventor of my generation. Which doesn't mean much without the resources to bring my ideas to life. After my internship abroad, I realized I'm gonna need the equivalent of a whole vibranium mountain to be great. I need cash, money. Do you think Tony Stark would be Tony Stark if he wasn't a billionaire? No shade. That's just the way the world works. And the AI from my prototype already cost millions of dollars, which clearly I don't have. So yeah, my means of fundraising have been a little experimental. But without real money, I gotta get creative. My method goes beyond rules and red tape. I want to continue Mr. Stark's legacy and revolutionize safety. My suits would shorten the response time of first responders, firefighters, search and rescue teams, etc. Working on this level of innovation does not come without risks. Due respect, Dean Troy, what do I get out of matriculation? Some job in Palo Alto with a tiny window and a bunch of guys I have to pretend to like? I want to build something undeniable. You want me to be small, but I refuse.
Now, it's here where she gets called out on her and it's also an unintentional description of the show.
That's a hot pile of garbage.
But then it's right back to it.
You, Riri Williams, are making an iron suit.
People are obsessed with them. I could build 1,000 other things, and no one would care. But if I could build one of them, better than everyone else, people got no choice but to respect me.
So characters are not allowed to have egos anymore. Their flaws should be gone before the first episode even begins. Got it. Makes you wonder why we bother writing stories at all.
And it wouldn't be Disney Marvel if they weren't taking a shot at the legacy character that she was supposed to be replacing.
The legacy character she replaces?
I need cash, money. Do you think Tony Stark would be Tony Stark if he wasn't a billionaire?
Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps.
Everyone uses that scene like it's the ultimate comeback. Why are we using the rant of a panicked villain as if it's some kind of factual mic drop? Obadiah Stane is not a reliable narrator. He's not a source of truth. He's a guy frustrated that he's not Tony Stark.
How come you're not working at, like, I don't know, Stark Industries or something?
He contributed immensely to the field, so I won't roast Tony Stark off rip. But I don't have $1 billion.
That scene immediately continues with,
How come you're not working at, like, I don't know, Stark Industries or something? And you're at least as smart as that Tony guy, right?
I just met you, and he contributed immensely to the field, so I won't roast Tony Stark off rip. But I don't have $1 billion, and I can't compete without resources.
I get that. You know, traditional companies, they didn't work for me either. Not for free thinkers like me and you. That's why I work for someone better. Come by tomorrow to meet him.
what she is doing here is not dismissing Stark. She is pointing out a real difference between them. Stark had access to virtually unlimited resources and inherited wealth. Riri does not. That line isn't about ego. It's about reality.
But it doesn't end there, because the crack, or more accurately described, on-crack writing team at Disney Marvel attempts to make Riri even more endearing by having her get expelled for selling completed tests to students.
You sold completed assignments to students at every school in the area.
After that, Riri steals the Iron Fart suit.
The Iron Fart suit. And you say the series alienates its audience? Who exactly is your audience supposed to be? Unsupervised 13-year-olds who just discovered swear words. First it was Iron Shart, now it's Iron Fart. If you make a third one, well, that would be just sad.
That she thinks she's entitled to because she built it with money from a grant.
She built that with her own grant money.
And she flies home to Chirac with the help of the MIT AI, who's a gay pencil.
Sup, I'm Trevor, MIT's teaching robot and virtual operational resource, and your very own AI assistant.
Violin.
And your very own AI assistant.
You know what? What you just said is so unbelievably stupid that I'm going to show the full video you used, with YouTube's automatic subtitles, just to make it clear how idiotic it is to claim he said gay assistant.
And she flies home to Chirac with the help of the MIT AI, who's a gay pencil.
Sup, I'm Trevor, MIT's teaching robot and virtual operational resource, and your very own AI assistant.
Violin.
And your very own AI assistant.
That's such a pathetic and stupid move, it honestly makes me feel more disgusted with you than with Critical Drinker.
Now, if the show ended with her being expelled, 10 out of 10. Unfortunately, it didn't, but if you're a viewer out there who made it past this part and to the end of the first 3 episodes, you deserve reparations.
Hey, yo, get off the street.
So Riri makes it back home, cut off from her gay pencil AI and broke. And through a series of contrived events, she runs across another race-swapped character from the comic books, the Hood, who we will now call Da Hood, and his League of Extraordinary They-Thems, who we'll get to later. And just in case for a moment you forgot that Riri Williams was a genius, they decide to remind you again.
I heard Riri Williams was a genius, but I said to myself, Parker, You gotta meet this kid up close.
Quick reminder, that was a line of dialogue that was written by a human, delivered by a human, sound edited by a human, edited by a human, and approved by a human, and actually released by other humans. Let's talk about Iron Shart. After that, Riri steals the Iron Fart suit. After some slight apprehension, Riri Williams decides to knowingly join this criminal organization when they promise they don't hurt anybody.
Look, I don't want to hurt anyone.
It's not like that.
Okay, so what do you do?
Theft, extortion, breaking and entering.
See, it's fine.
I don't even care.
Riri, I see you. I see you fed up with mediocre folks taking your spot, mediocre institutions rejecting your genius. And soon enough, you're gonna get tired of making yourself so small to fit inside those awkward boxes they put you in. When you get to that point, when you're ready for the respect and the money you deserve, come work for me.
No. I'm out.
That's a closet.
I'm not getting back on that elevator.
Let me show you another way. So what's it gonna cost to get you to change your mind?
You don't have that kind of money.
Consider this a signing bonus. And if you agree to do the next 3 jobs with us, we'll have way more than this.
I assume these jobs aren't exactly legal.
And not exactly.
Look, I don't want to hurt anyone.
It's not like that.
Okay, so what do you do?
Theft, extortion, breaking and entering.
Why?
Why do you make iron suits? I'm sure you have a good reason why you do what you do. And I have reasons of my own. Now, you could try to get this cash out there, but you already know what it's going to come with. Red tape, delays, strings attached. Join me, and I will give you the tools to help you carry out your vision. ASAP. So you in or out?
Better be worth it.
It will be. But we're gonna need that iron suit tomorrow.
No problem.
Now, most of the next 2 episodes dedicate an excruciating amount of time reconnecting Riri Williams with her dead best friend who's now an AI. So for the sake of your valuable time and our collective sanity, I'll try to get through this briefly.
Congrats on watching 2 episodes. Truly heroic stuff. We should all aspire to that level of commitment.
The one component Riri Williams needed to get her suit working again was an AI, which she was able to pull off after knowingly taking money from a criminal organization. While she was trying to replicate the AI of the isolationist ethno-state Wakanda.
No, that's a country. Wakanda is a sovereign nation. It's isolated because they chose to stay out of the world's problems. Ending Wakanda forever, they show how other nations use military force to try to steal from them. So yeah, turns out they were right about isolating themselves. Also, Wakanda is in Africa, a continent where, surprise, surprise, the majority of the population is black. So it actually makes perfect sense that Wakanda is almost entirely made up of black people. Does that fact bother you or something?
Through plugging her brain into her laptop, she fell asleep thinking about her dead best friend, which manifested her into artificial intelligence. I think at this point it's prudent to point out Disney Marvel's efforts to show the lived experience of marginalized people. Because it turns out Riri's stepdad, Gary, and her friend Natalie were killed in a drive-by shooting.
Message!
And now Natalie is back as an AI and an acronym.
You could call me Neuro-Autonomous Technical Assistant and Laboratory Intelligence Entity instead.
Give me something for the pain and let me die.
Homeland Intervention Enforcement and Logistics Division.
That's quite a mouthful.
I know. We're working on it.
Admittedly, the AI Natalie is a far more likable character than Riri Williams. What's the message there? Well, you'll have to ask Disney Marvel. And their scenes together can be summed up with this.
You know nothing about this man. Don't laugh at me. Best friend, that's my best friend. I know best friend, that's my best. Come on, go best friend, that's my best friend. Hey.
Now, will you upgrade the suit?
Ah, classic move. Ignore everything that doesn't support your narrative. Very honest of you.
Now, Riri still needs some components for the suit she stole, and this brings us to the trademark Disney Marvel turning a formidable character from the comics into an ineffectual male. And it also might be one of the saddest examples of a downward career trajectory.
A downward trajectory? He played Han Solo, and just a few years later, he's part of the MCU. If you actually look at his career, this is only his second TV role, and he delivers a genuinely solid performance. But sure, let's pretend having a steady, high-profile acting job in two of the biggest franchises in the world is somehow a bad thing now.
Alden Ehrenreich, the former Han Solo from Solo, hashtag Solo lost money, now playing, and we're just gonna cut to the chase on this one, Ezekiel Zeke Stane, son of Obadiah Stane, who keeps his pop's remains in a Ziploc bag.
The hell, Joe? Why is he in a baggie?
We weren't close.
And now the supervillain from the comic that looked like this now looks and acts like this.
Heather?
Hey, neighbor.
Hello. You could stop letting your dog poop on my lawn.
Are you crying?
Sorry, sometimes it just happens. It's totally involuntary.
Then you come knocking on my door with that same iron energy. It's a non-starter, Riri.
Why is there a sweaty middle-aged white man at my door?
I'm 36, respectfully.
Oh no. A character who just made their debut isn't exactly like their comic counterpart. You know, the one who's had decades of backstory and development. Is this seriously your first time watching a superhero series, or what?
But at least there's a great bonding scene between Riri and Zeke to Alanis Morissette.
Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
So let me get this straight. You're bothered by two friends spending time together. You're bothered when characters act like actual friends. You're bothered that a brand new character isn't an exact replica of their comic counterpart. And you're bothered by two people simply singing together? Dude, go touch some grass. Or better yet, let the sun hit your face for once. You're pushing 60 and still talk like a 20-year-old trying to sound wise just because you understood Fight Club.
Now, I'm skipping past a couple of characters because they're too boring to mention, but the cast is rounded out with DeHood's gang, the Groom Patrol, and most of them are based on characters from the comics that are changed just a little bit. There's Cousin John, who's John King. He doesn't look like his last name is King, but you never know. Then there's the Blood Siblings, who are based on the Blood Brothers, who started out looking like this in the comics. And while using some creative license, there's a slight variation from the source material. Now they're played by a couple of lesbians, who in a moment of rare accurate representation are shown in a flashback beating the hell out of each other.
They're not lesbians. They're a brother and sister. Well, he is non-binary. But to put it in simple words for you to understand, they are brother and sister. And really? A joke about lesbians being abusive in relationships? Wow. So original and definitely super useful in a Marvel series review. Extra fact, one of them is trans, the brother. Neither of them are lesbians. So what exactly are you trying to say with that comment? Oh right, nothing. Because at this point, you're not making arguments, you're just making noise, because you've got nothing left to say.
Well, let's keep in mind this is Disney Marvel, and of course they're the muscle, and they beat the hell out of every dude in the first 3 episodes.
The entire MCU has existed under Disney ever since they bought Marvel back in 2009. We've had Black Widow for years, and, funny enough, no one ever seemed to have a problem with that. Or is the issue now simply that it's no longer Scarlett Johansson in tight black leather?
Then there's Clown, which is an appropriate name for a character in this show. Oh, and Eric Andre is in this for some reason, and I guess his career has seen better days, playing Rampage. Again, just a minor tweak from the comic books. He ends up dying, and his character arc is best summed up by my good friend Az's meme. And last, but definitely not least, there's Shea Coulee's Slug, who looks like this in the comics, and I have to admit, the resemblance is uncanny.
I don't want to toot my own horn or anything, but I'm kind of one of Madripoor's most wanted. Toot.
And for the 5s and 10s of people who actually watch this show, you may be surprised to find out that this is his first acting gig.
Hey, do you see this? These are all the things where Shea Coulee has worked, performed, and acted. And yet you come in here, full of pride and smugness, claiming that Ironheart was their first acting role? Don't make me laugh. And by the way, Why single out only him, the black gay man who is a drag queen? Why not criticize the other actors too? What's wrong? Are you scared of going after a Latina? Or a black woman? Or a trans actor? You're a coward. A hypocritical, spineless fraud.
So after Da Hood and the Merry Suicide Squad pull off a series of capers robbing the rich, which is best described by everyone's pal Epic Mike on Twitter, all the action in the first 3 episodes of Ironheart are the poor disenfranchised innocent criminal gang beating up and shooting working class security guards, but they all work for billionaires, so it's justified. But what the Social Justice League doesn't know is Da Hood is in league with Mephisto. You know, the character that everyone thought was going to be in WandaVision until they found out that showrunner Jack Schaefer had never heard of him. Well, now they're going to waste him in this show, which is a shame because he's played by Sacha Baron Cohen, who coincidentally finally settled his divorce with Isla Fisher, and all he has to pay her is $75 million, and now we know why he took the gig.
You're seriously trying to say that Sacha Baron Cohen joined Ironheart just to pay $75 million in divorce settlement to his wife? I really hope that's not what you meant, because the show finished filming in 2022, the money thing only became public in 2025, and the divorce happened in 2023. That's a full year after Ironheart wrapped production. So even your own timeline doesn't line up. Nerdrotic, you can't even keep a lie straight using the sources you provided.
Anywho, along with extorting all these rich people, Da Hood is forcing them to sign a contract which I'm sure has something to do with their soul. You know, the thing that will be slowly draining out of anybody who's not a seasoned pro watching this. And to save what's left of mine, let's get this over with. After the super intelligent AI Natalie susses out eloquently that Da Hood is sketchy,
I sense some crazy energy radiating off Parker. I don't know what it is, but it ain't from around here. I think Parker is wrapped up in some sketchy shit.
I don't know what gave it away, possibly all the robbery, extortion, and attempted murder. The super genius Riri Williams comes up with an unnecessarily overcomplicated plan to get a piece of the Hood's cloak to see how it works. And she plans to do it during the Agents of Antifa's final caper, which of course goes sideways.
I think I've said this before, but English isn't my first language. That's why I use Microsoft Edge's text-to-speech function to narrate my videos. Also, I'm not from the US, but after reading the Wikipedia page, all it says is that Antifa is a group that opposes racism, discrimination, and fascism, but earlier, you mocked them by calling them the Merry Suicide Squad, and now you're calling them Agents of Antifas. So I honestly don't get the joke or the insult. Since when is being against racism and fascism a bad thing? What are you actually trying to say, Nerdrotic?
By extorting Hunter Mason, an evil rich guy who just wants to grow food, Da Hood conveniently stands still while monologuing so Riri Williams can cut off a piece of his cape. She accidentally sets off an alarm and doesn't lift a finger while the Hood kills Hunter Mason.
And what exactly did you expect her to do? She had nothing but a laser cutter. The Hood was so furious he killed the guy before he could even sign. On top of that, there was already a history of mistrust with that crew. If Riri had made a move right then, she would have been killed on the spot.
And then she f***s off so Da Hood can kill over a dozen working class security guards.
That's not Riri. That's Natalie, who was sent by Riri to rescue the rest of the crew while Riri herself was trying to find a way out on her own. Maybe actually watching the scene and understanding who's who would help your review make a bit more sense.
I'm coming to get you. No. Just direct me to an unaffected greenhouse and get the rest of the crew to safety. But Ree, you have to save them. I'll be fine.
Okay, I'm on it.
Once again, what exactly was she supposed to do in that situation? By that point, Riri had already left. And the Hood? He literally has a magical cloak that makes him invisible. He could have just walked away, but instead, he chose to stay and fight the security guards. That wasn't her plan. That was his decision. That's on him. But no, let's twist the narrative and blame the black girl instead. How convenient.
Then she gets caught red-handed by Cousin John with a piece of cloak, who conveniently doesn't throw any of the knives he's specialized at throwing while fighting her, and then she leaves him to die. Our hero.
Oh, I love how you clipped the scene just right to make it look like Riri flew off and abandoned John. You're so pathetic, dishonest, and desperate it's infuriating that people actually swallow your lies like water in the desert. Not too long ago, people like you used to get kicked off platforms for this level of deception. But I guess lying is now the fastest path to attention. Anyway, let's walk through the actual scene.
You okay? Yeah. Okay, I'll get you out of here.
Doors sealed in 3, 2, 1.
John tries to stab Riri with his knives after she says that they were responsible for Rampage's death. That's when Natalite opens the door, pulls Riri out, and helps her escape. The security door, built specifically to trap people inside, closes and ends up killing John. That's not on Riri. She tried to save everyone. If anyone's to blame, it's the company that built a so-called safety system that can literally trap and kill someone. But of course, it's easier for you to twist the story and vilify the black girl again.
But not to worry, because she feels really bad about her deliberate decision. And the last lines of episode 3 best describe the character of Riri Williams.
Bree, please talk to me. Good? No! No, I'm not!
She saw 2 people die in less than an hour, and then realized she left the laser cutter behind during the fight with John. What exactly did you expect her to feel? Calm? Collected? She's a teenager in a life or death situation, not a soldier. And you? After all the lies you've told in this video, about the scenes, the characters, the actors, don't you feel even a shred of shame?
Comics, the only way to logically interpret Ironheart is to see it for what it is. A villain origin story. It's Ironheart, a show for the modern audience that's meant to lift up and represent marginalized people. Features a protagonist who's an unlikable, insufferable, selfish narcissist who's consumed with being iconic.
That really sounds like you.
Steals and is responsible for at least 2 deaths.
Let's set aside the MIT events for a second. What exactly has Riri stolen? When has she cheated? And how are you seriously blaming her for John's death? A man who tried to kill her, and calling her responsible for another body when the Hood was the one who pulled the trigger. That's called self-defense, the second death? That's on the Hood, period. So tell me, why are you so desperate to pin 2 deaths on Riri when they were completely out of her control? Because from what I can see, every single one of these heroes has killed someone, willingly. But somehow, it's her that gets your judgment.
Best friend get killed in a drive-by shooting, and every other character is a one-dimensional DEI cardboard cutout. The only question I have after watching this is, what does Marvel have against what they call marginalized people?
Because if everyone were white, you'd be crying about how Marvel made a show where all the white people are evil. And now you're crying because the bad guys are minorities? So what is it then? Does your brain only function in extremes?
To the worst writing and acting in Marvel history going back to the Electric Company. Except for this, which may go down in history as the best bit of acting of all time.
Quite frankly, you have been a horrible steward of Stark's legacy.
You're so simple and predictable, honestly. The only character you treat with any respect just so happens to be a white man. Nerdrotic, please, you're not even trying to be subtle anymore.
Marvel of late, meaning the last half-decade, the cycle will repeat over this monstrosity. Fans will be blamed, the accusations of review bombing have already started, and I would agree in this case, you gotta be kidding me.
Or you say fans will be accused of review bombing as a way to cover their backs, but that's exactly what happened. What's the point of complaining about something that actually took place and has proof? Do these ratings look like normal voting behavior to you? Over 10,000 people gave it 1 star. Now look at this other show my parents recommended me. See the smooth curve? See how natural it looks? That's how Ironheart's rating should look. But because of people like you, Critical Drinker, that babyface weirdo, and other 35-plus-year-old creeps with easily manipulated fandoms, Ironheart's reviews look the way they do. And to prove it, let's check some comments from your own video to see how your fans really think.
All's Out will probably start it all over again with the Fantastic Four, featuring the female Silver Surfer, which Disney Marvel desperately needs to be a hit.
She's a comic character. We know they'll escape that universe and come into the MCU. So why would they waste the original Silver Surfer on something like this? You're just complaining for the sake of complaining. You know what? At this point, Nerdrotic has nothing left to say, just the same tired routine. So I want you to understand one thing. These people lie. And worse, they lie to you. You've seen the proof. And if anyone wants to challenge me, I invite you, make a video. Refute every single argument I've made with objective evidence. It shouldn't be hard, if I'm really the liar some of you think I am. This was breaking the cycle. And if you're still watching, whether you agree or not, I invite you, watch the show. Don't take my word. Don't take theirs. Decide for yourself. And I'll see you at the next link we'll break.